Hi, good
Morning.
morning. Hi, morning. Yeah, sorry, just met my PhD student just now. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, first of all, thank you very much for Miss Tina. Okay. It's our pleasure and honor to have you with us today. Okay, so today's basically is Thursday is partly of our class, which is MBA 1223. Okay, we have around 20 students, okay, in our so-called both enviro as well as the sustain workplace lah. So there are some of them are first semesters. I think most of them are first semester, and some of them are second and third semesters before they going for their final thesis. So in these semesters, the students basically they are taking the ecological architecture design. Okay, in
Oh,
this case,
nice.
yeah, and hence other than like daylighting studies as well as the ventilations. So we also encourage them to like using the green rating tools like GBI, the one that we have taken before, right, Tina?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a good experience together with
Okay.
you all. So it's really happy to have you with us, okay, today to share about the green rating tools available in around the world and Malaysia as well. Yeah, students, for your information, Miss Tina is a good friend of mine. Okay, she's from Sabah, and I knew her since the GBI's exam. Yeah, even though we not really meet up during the GBI, right, Tina? But
Yes.
I think after that we still have like few times meeting up, catching up after our GBI exam. Yeah, so she is graduated from Osaka Prefecture's University, Japan. Okay, in material science and engineering. And Tina, in 2016, she also graduated from University of British Columbia, okay, Canada, and in the clean energy engineering. And she has been working around the world, like Japan, Hong Kong, okay, Singapore, and currently in US as well. Yeah, so she has a vast experience in the green rating tools. So I think, Tina, you are the most suitable person to share about the green rating tools to our students today. Yeah, so there is actually something that students they would like to know, maybe the introductions about the green building rating tools, as well as the what is the do and don'ts. Maybe later on you
Okay.
can spare some time to share with them your experience, probably in
Mm,
the green rating tools as well. Yeah,
yeah.
maybe
Thank
without
you.
further ado, okay, let us invite and welcome Ms. Dina Lu to share with you on the topics of the green rating tools. Yeah, around the world. Yeah, Dina,
Okay.
the floor
Thank
is
you.
yours.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Nelson. Let me quickly share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen right now? Is it okay? Okay. Sorry. Let me
To
quickly move
share the
this.
content. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's in the, like, maybe you can share in the full presentation mode. Yeah, thank you, Tina.
Yep. Oops. I think I shared the wrong screen. Give me 1 second. Then. I think I just swapped the screen. Can you see it? Is it okay? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tina Lu. Thank you so much for having me for today's lecture. I don't think I'm the most suitable person for this presentation, but what I can share is really my experience throughout my 7 years of career life. And I want to make it a very casual conversation, so feel free to stop me if I have any questions. So a bit of an agenda for today. I will start with a bit of introduction about myself and also the definition of green building, and then we'll jump into why green building certifications and also the global trend of green building rating tools based on my personal understanding. And then I will present the whole green building um, rating tools in a global map so that you can see like what's out there in the market. And then a bit of the types of green building rating tools. It's also based on my personal understanding. And then we'll deep dive into a 3 international green building certification, LEED, WOW, Living Building Challenge, And then we'll jump into a green building rating tool and what does it mean to architect. And then we'll jump into embodied carbon, carbon life cycle, how to reduce embodied carbon with a case study, and then end with a slide of key takeaway, and then I think around 20 minutes of Q&A. So about myself, like what Nelson mentioned just now, I was born in Malaysia. I'm from engineering background. I'm not an architect, but after I graduated from Canada, I get a chance to work on building sector as a building energy modeler in Canada. After that, I went to Hong Kong, Arab Hong Kong, to work as a chartered as a sustainability consultant for 3.5 years. So that is a bit of during the COVID season. I decided to move to Singapore to stay closer to my family. So I moved to Singapore, working at TD10 as a senior environmental designer. So right now I'm back to Malaysia, but I'm working remotely for a US company called Green Generation. So you can see I have a lot of title here. It's basically because if you want to work in green building rating system side, you basically have to know a lot of things and then you have to prove to the client that you know a lot. So like what Nelson mentioned just now, GBI facilitator, same as Nelson, I have the same one. It's like we have to go through this amount of like, we have to study a lot and we take exam to prove that we know a lot. So you can see right now I have so many certification here. It's proving that I know a lot, but to be honest, really certification is just introduction. So once you work with a client, you will know more, much more than what you learn from the lesson. So definition of green building. The reason why I have this slide here is really to set a bit of to make sure we are on the same page. So what is green building? So it highly depends on who you talk to. The definition change a lot. Like when I've talked to a client who is not in this industry, they think green building is really a building full of plants, like very green in terms of a lot of plants outside, a lot of trees. But really, to be honest, that is not a green building. A green building, sometimes we call it sustainable building, is really putting focus more on reducing its overall environmental impact and also promoting the health and well-being of its occupant. So it's you can see from the definition here, it's not just environmental impact, but it also focusing more on the health and well-being of its occupant. So reducing environmental impact is one thing which I think which if we change it, the word we say is really reducing carbon reduction. So it's reducing the carbon emission of that building, reducing its environmental impact. And then the second one is to promote health and well-being. It's focusing more on the human side. It's the occupant inside the building, make sure they're comfortable, make sure they're healthy. So this is a definition of the green building. It's very, you can see from here, it's very qualitative, it's not quantitative in a way. So it's very hard to define it. That's why we need green building certification to define it along the way. But keep in mind that green building is not just for environmental, but it's also for human occupant. It's focusing more on resource efficient, energy efficient, water efficient. We call it reducing the carbon throughout the whole cycle, life cycle. But to be honest, in the real world, when you talk to client, when you talk to developers, when you talk about green building, they will hear the other way. The definition of the client side will be, hey, it's you're trying to you are making the construction cost very high. You are trying to you are asking us for a lot of consultant fee. And then they are very concerned about the green building feature. We're adding a lot of construction time. And then they think it's not worth it to do it. What I mentioned here mainly it's in Malaysia market, in the Malaysia industry. But to be honest, if we talk to other people like Hong Kong market or even the Japan client, that gradually picking up. It's because there's a need from the market as well. A lot of buyers are demanding from green building, but not really in Malaysia. I think the situation is a bit different. It's because we are in a developing country, but Hong Kong, Japan-wise, they're quite mature in a way, and the people are looking more into green building, but not in Malaysia. That's why the client will feel like if you ask for green building, it's like you're asking a lot. While for other consultant, what I would say it's consultant that they are not passionate in green building. They will feel like, okay, you are trying to ask us to work on more because our fee is so low, and then you're asking us to work on green building. You're adding a lot of responsibility on us, and then there's a lot of coordination out there. That's why they're pushing the responsibility to each other. Like if you talk to the consultant about green building feature, hey, we need rainwater harvesting system, and then people will try to push, hey, this is not my responsibility. You ask the architect to design it. no one wants to take the responsibility. This is the reality. But what I'm trying to do for this today presentation, it's not to giving you guys the negative of what's happening out there, but to give you guys a bit of, I would say, to let you guys ready for this kind of industry. So this is the real world, but I will give you a bit of the solution for this as I ran through this already. So why green building certification? It's really answering the question that we asked on our last slide, the previous slide. For the project team, it's really to guide and demonstrate and document the effort to deliver sustainable and high performance building. It's really like what I mentioned, it's not quantitative. It's not quantitative right now. So we have to set a target for the industry. And also, to be honest, when the industry do not have a lot of knowledge of green building certification is really a good guideline. It's guiding you step by step. So using a guide like GBI, it's good for a starting point, but I don't suggest we keep using those kind of green building certification for in our future. If we are knowledgeable in green building, we should definitely have our own way of building a green building rather than focusing mostly following a guidebook. For buyer-wise, it's really to define a sustainable building in a more quantitative way and allows apple-to-apple comparison. Like what I mentioned, if there's two buildings out there and two developer claims that both building are green building, but how you compare it is really highly depends on maybe the first A building it's GBI certified, but the second building is GBI Gold. Then you know, okay, the GBI Gold is certainly more sustainable in a way than the building A, right? So it's allowed you to compare. So it's not just people just using the sustainable building or green building and to kind of promote themselves, but really to quantitate it and then to let us to compare it apple to apple. As for the client, like what I mentioned, the client will say, hey, it's so expensive. I don't see a lot of people, buyers are looking for green building. Maybe we don't have this research in Malaysia right now, but internationally, it's highly proven that a LEED certified building will get a lot of attention from the market, and even the buyer will tend to buy this kind of green building and selling like hotcakes. But in Malaysia, I think I'm not quite sure. I think this research has to be done in some way, but I think it's pretty much. I think a lot of people that is highly educated or even know about green building, they will tend to buy green building because it's gonna reduce that utility bills. In a long term wise, it's saving a lot of money and also increase the property values as well. So when we talk to the developers, we have, although sometimes I use the US market and the US data to prove to them that, hey, this is showing that a lot of people are buying for green building and then the occupancy rate is higher. But we have to do something in Malaysia to prove to the client that it's happening in Malaysia as well, because I think the developer in Malaysia, they do not buy this. So yeah, I will leave this to Nelson to maybe for your next research, you can do this kind of research as well. Um, a bit of the global trend, also history of green building rating system. This is basically from my personal understanding. So USGBC, it's they released LEED 2009 in 2000. Um, LEED is a US-based green building certification. It's widely recognized. I think you heard it before. It's called Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. So they started in 1993, but in 2009, it's getting more attention because of the oil price. It's getting higher and fluctuating a lot. So the whole market is focusing more on energy reduction. So at that time, you can see all the focus is just focusing more on reducing the resources. Well, in 2013, the WELL standard released. A WELL standard is focusing more on the human and human health and well-being side. So I will talk about this more in my later slide. But talking about the timeline-wise, in 2016, you can see the Paris Agreement COP21 happened. People are trying to getting a lot of attention on reducing carbon emission. That's why you can see a boom of a net zero regenerative design focus. People are more focused on designing net zero building, regenerative design. I'm talking about a global trend, but not in Malaysia. I think Malaysia right now is still focusing more on the energy reduction side. But if we right now, after the COVID COVID hits, and then the rising importance of ESG, environmental, social, and governance in APAC region, graduate people are more focusing on embodied carbon reduction and also circular economy right now. And in terms of health and well-being, after the WELL standard launch, people are gradually putting more attention on the health and well-being. But when it's really after the COVID, it started getting more and more popular. People want to get a more health and well-being building certification to prove that their buildings are very resilient in a way in terms of this kind of COVID period. And also after the Australian bushfire, people are trying to getting more attention on resilient building design. It's more towards the physical climate risk of what's happening out there, the disaster. But right now it's still a bit, it's catching up a bit, but mostly in the US because they have a lot of like wildfire, tornadoes, different kind of disaster when not in Malaysia. Mainly Malaysia is flooding issue. So this is a bit of a trend and history of green building rating tools. If you look at the green building rating tools on a global map, you can see a lot of countries have developed their own green building certification. In Malaysia, we have GBI and Green RE. Hong Kong, they have BIM Plus. Japan, they have CASB, bells, and different kind of green building certification. China, they have China Green 3-star. Singapore, they have Green Mark. Australia, New Zealand, they have Neighbours and Green Star. Germany, they have that different kind of passive house. UK have BREEAM. US, they have LEED, well fit, well living building challenge. There's a lot coming from the US side. The reason why in the next few slide I did not touch on the Malaysia version is because I don't want to make the whole presentation a bit boring. But if you want to know more about GBI, you can ask Nelson or also Google online Greenery as well. But what I would say is GBI is mainly copy from the US LEED. So I'll change my word. It's not copy. It's they modify towards more of a Malaysia culture. So it's more towards Malaysia climate, and then it's more towards the way that the whole industry is working. But if you compare to LEED and GBI, GBI is more easier to achieve than LEED. But you can see a lot of client in Malaysia depends on who's that stakeholder. If they want to rent it out to international client, definitely I think they would take GPI plus another international certification that is LEED. Green RE, it's also a modification from Singapore Green Mark. But what I would say is Singapore Green Mark is also modifying from LEED. So at the end of the day, all the sources are coming from LEED, which is coming from the US side. But why they modify it towards their own local context is because a lot of the US kind of thing does not make sense in Malaysia. I'll give you a few examples. As really, if you look at it, the embodied carbon, I would talk about this more, but it's material side. In Malaysia, there's not a lot of green materials out there. So you LEED allocates quite a lot of points on the green materials. That's why it make it very difficult to achieve. So I think GPI and Green Mark also modify that so the Malaysia project can easily achieve a certain level and achieve more points. Types of green building certification tools. So as we define the green building definition just now, there's two types of green buildings rating out there. One is resources focused, the other one is human oriented. So resources focused is really focusing on more reducing the energy. I would say carbon and also materials, water waste, water use and also waste. While human oriented is more focusing on enhancing health and well-being of the occupants, such as IAQs, indoor air quality, acoustic, water quality, and thermal comfort. As you can see, well certification is focusing more on the human oriented, but they're focusing less on the resources focus. So it's mainly focusing on how to improve the health and well-being of the building occupant, but not really on focusing more on the reducing the energy and also material. So each program has their own criteria and requirement. So as an architect and so as a consultant, what we should do is really to choose the right program that align with the project goals and so sustainability objective. So first we need to come in to understand what's the client goal. If they don't have it, we should guide them a bit. We should understand and then help them to pick the right one. Because I think a lot of clients, they come in with an impression of, hey, LEED, it's very well recognized. I just want to get LEED. help me to get it done. That's all. But this is not the case. I think we should definitely focusing on letting them know what's the intention of getting LEED and how to get there. Give them a bit of understanding of what's out there and let them pick and choose. So I'll jump into detail of 3 international green building certification, mainly from the US side, to let you have a glance of this. Feel free to download it online or Google it, because I don't want to make the whole presentation very boring just talking about green certification, but I will let you know what's the difference between these 3. So like what I mentioned in this graph, you can see, okay, LEED is very high resources focused, but not really high human oriented, right? The reason is because if you can see how they allocate their points, it's really they're looking on the site, sustainable site, location, and linkage. Usually, whether you have good transportation, sustainable sites is looking at the environmental impact on that site, water efficiency, energy and atmosphere, material and resources, indoor environmental quality, and awareness education. As you can see, most of the credits are allocated for resources, while they have one indoor environmental quality, just focusing on human and health and well-being. That's why this certification is mostly resources focused, a bit less on the human health and well-being focus. But if the client come to you say, hey, I want the building to be very energy efficient, but mostly, and also focusing more on health and well-being, you can uh, what you can do is really to let the client do 2 certification, LEED and WELL, right? So it's not just you should go with one. You can definitely pick and choose and then let them know what's the cost implication as well. So for WELL, um, go back go back to the chart. If you can see, WELL is very high human oriented, but less of a resources focus. Is because, well, it's only focusing more on building occupant health and well-being. So after COVID, a lot of developers are looking into well. It's because they want to prove that their building have good ventilation, so that when you stay in a room with someone that is um, infected COVID-19 and you won't get that. So this is a myth, but sometimes they just want to push this to give a bit of I think let people think that they're building, taking care of this kind of aspect, but which is good because we after COVID we spend most of our time in the building, right? So if you look into concept, they're looking at air, which is indoor air quality, water quality. So LEED has a water efficiency. They don't focusing on water quality, but well, they focus on water quality, which is the drinking water or even the water we use for washing our hands, doing our laundry. They need to meet a certain requirement. Nourishment, I won't say this is something that is common in Malaysia, so it's more on the operational side. They want your boss to give you yoga program for free. They let you to do like a lot of exercise for free. So it's like part of their agreement that they have to give you this kind of nourishment to let you be more healthy. And then they take care of the daylighting as well. They want a lot of daylight coming into the building, and then movements, a lot of exercise, thermal comfort, sound, which is the acoustic wise material. So this material is not to reducing the resources of the material while I'm focusing more on the VOC. So it's the chemical substance of the material you use. It has to be low VOC, low chemical exposure. So we have to check every material specifications when we work on well project, and also focusing more on the community, how we connect with community. It sounds like more of a US culture, but a lot of people in Asia are picking up, and Hong Kong is doing very well in well certification. Living Building Challenge, it's a third certification that I want to introduce, but I don't think you heard of this because this is a very rare certification in Asia. The reason is because it's very difficult to achieve. What I mentioned just now, LEED, all those specifications out there are focusing more on reducing the negative impact to the environment, but Living Building Challenge is focusing more on not just reducing the negative impact, but also creating positive impact to the environment. So Living Building Challenge is not like LEED or well, you can pick and choose. It requires you to do everything in that standard. You cannot pick. If you fail one, you definitely fail the whole certification program. They require to become net zero in energy, net zero in waste, net zero in water. So basically, you have to have your own rainwater harvesting system. You filter it, and then you use your own water that you harvest on site. Energy as wise, likewise, you have to put your solar panel 105% to cover all the energy consumption of that building. The reason why I bring this up is because I think this is a very beautiful certification. Although I know it's very difficult to achieve, I want to bring this out there for you to kind of have a look. And it would be great if you have a ribbon building somewhere in Malaysia or even in APAC. In Australia, we have a few because I think they really buy into this concept. Um, a very famous people has mentioned if we want to go to um, reducing the carbon globally in terms of built environment, living building challenge is the right way to go. But I would say the construction cost is very high. So in a way, we have to really look into the pros and cons. We shouldn't just really sell it to the client because it's something that we want to do, but really have to understand, is it feasible in Malaysia? And also one of the things very difficult to achieve is really the material. In Malaysia, we don't have a very green material out there, and then the supply chain is really not green enough. So this is a mainly not just in Malaysia, in China. A client came to us say, hey, they want to do living building challenge for their whole campus, but they were having a lot of difficulties because of the materials. One of the thing I want to bring out is really the beauty and biophilia. It's a new concept to me, but I'm not sure if it's for you. But beauty, they require you to put a lot of nature aspect in the building because for human, if you look at nature kind of aspect, we'll get a lot of inspiration and then it will improve our health. So this is something new that I couldn't see happening in other green building certification, but this is really something that I found it quite interesting. Even the certification require us to put a lot of arts in the building. And sometimes at first I I thought this doesn't make sense, but gradually I gradually know that it's affecting our health and well-being as well. So um yes, so green building rating tools, I introduced so many green building tools just now, but what does it really means to architect to you all? But just what I want to say is really architect plays a crucial role in designing the future to meet the green building rating system, mostly on the passive design and also material selection. I think mostly throughout your all study, I think you do a lot of passive design like building orientation, facade design, daylight penetration, like do daylight study. But something I want to focus more on is really the material selection because material selection it's pretty new for me and also for the market as well. I think Singapore just gradually pick up recently in their green mark. They requires so material we really have to look into the embodied carbon, the VOC, which is the volatile organic compound. So it's most of the chemical exposure side and also high durability in terms of circular economy. So what is embodied carbon? I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but I had a very difficult time to talk to the client about embodied carbon because they couldn't understand this concept. I will slow down a bit, feel free to stop me. So for green building, most of the time, we're focusing only on operational carbon, which is the energy used when we build the building and then we run the building. We're only looking at that operational carbon, which is our electricity bill, water bill. We will have gas that's included as well. That's we call operational carbon. But right now, gradually, a lot of people are focusing more on embodied carbon. I will explain why. Embodied carbon come with the building materials, including the manufacturer kind of carbon emission into that materials. When you select that material, it's already um, including a certain amount of carbon, right? That's embodied carbon. I will explain more in the next slide. So this is showing a carbon life cycle of a building material or even a building as well. So you can see it coming from the extracting the raw materials, transport to factory, manufacture product, and then transport to your site, you construct the building, you use and maintain. So what I mentioned just on operating building, operational embodied carbon, it's really just for this, the use stage, while others, it's really all with embodied carbon. So if, say for example, if you pick aluminium, so it's really starting from extracting from iron ore and then transport to the factory and then manufacture like maybe your aluminum panel and then transport to your site and then you construct the building, right? So this is all the embodied carbon included in that materials. So if you can see, it's highly depends on the supply chain. But as an architect, you can pick alternative material as well, right? So that's why although the supply chain has to be green in some way, it has to be coming from the demand side as well. So as an architect, you can push the demand, say, hey, we demand for more green materials, or maybe because your material has so high embodied carbon, we don't want to use your material. But how to quantify this is through LCA life cycle assessment. So in US, a lot of people are doing, they call it EPD, environmental product declaration. So they demand the supplier to give them a report saying how many embodied carbon they have in that panel, aluminum panel, before they pick that material. So usually we ask for the contract like supplier to give us a specification, but on top of that we need an EPD, which is we call it we should understand their embodied carbon. But in Singapore they're trying to do this right now because in their green mark they require a green mark certified building to calculate their life cycle embodied carbon. But in Malaysia it's still trying to pick it up this kind of concept. So we jumped into how to reduce embodied carbon. It's not just selecting the right material, it's also designed better to build it cleverly. Although this is a combination effort of architect and also structural engineer because structural engineer has to look into the load and a lot of things coming from the foundation as well. So it's really, if you design it better, you can say this, if you can see on this graph, a steel frame building definitely have high embodied carbon than mass timber building. Although I know this building code that does not require you to build timber building, high-rise timber building. But you can see right now in Canada or even in Japan, timber building is gradually picking up. It's because of embodied carbon. As you can see, concrete building has a lot of embodied carbon as well. So what you can do is really to pick the right material. I'm not saying to really mess up with the structure or everything, but when you can pick, when you can do on the design side, or even like for your shading device, for your facade, if you can pick the one with low embodied carbon or pick the one with alternative solution. So this is something that I found it quite interesting. It's embodied carbon figure. If you can see, aluminum has the highest embodied carbon, which I did not realize before. And I thought aluminum, it's a very green, it's very lightweight. So usually a lot of people love to use aluminum. But if you can see, compare to steel, it has more than 8 times higher embodied carbon than a steel. While concrete, if you can see, it has a very low embodied carbon. But the reason why at whole we look at the concrete building, it's very high. It's because the quantity it's way higher. That's why I kind of make the whole building very high embodied carbon. But what I'm saying here, it's really the design feature of your facade. If you can pick the one with less embodied carbon, if you can. Although I think cost will come into play as well, a lot of things as well. If you really want to pick aluminium, pick the one with recycled aluminium. So this is I pick one. This is one of my project I did before. If you can see, because we mentioned embodied carbon coming from including the carbon emission from the manufacturing site, right? So the manufacturing power consumption is also come into play. Highly depends on where you get the aluminium from. If you get it from China, yes, it has a very high embodied carbon. It's because of the power source. The power grid inside is mostly coming from core plant, so it has very high carbon emission. But if you can pick like a 50% recycled aluminium, you can reduce it to half or almost half of the embodied carbon. And then so with this, it's kind of guiding you a bit of where should you get your aluminium from. So I think right now, mostly the client look into cost, and then that's why we just look into cost and then we'll pick, hey, we want to get it from China. So they just straight go to China to get the aluminium. But if you consider embodied carbon, it will totally change the game. You might need to consider, oh, aluminium recycled. although it might not sound good to a client, but just work with the supplier and ask for alternative and ask for where they get the aluminum from and to understand more on embodied carbon. So almost to end of my slide, but why embodied carbon is very important. Before, when we did not really look into reducing our emission, operational carbon and embodied carbon, the pie chart looks like this. Operational carbon plays a huge role, and the embodied carbon is just a small part of the pie. But right now, we're focusing more on net zero building. We're trying to reduce the high performance building. We can see the operational carbon gradually become smaller, embodied carbon become a bigger portion of the pie. But can you imagine in the future if we get to net zero while embodied carbon is still there and it's gonna lock in our building for 50 years, more than 50 years? How can we tackle that? We cannot tackle that anymore because it's already locked in our building for more than 50 years. And then we are letting our future generations to solve that issue. It doesn't really make sense. So that's why we have to act right now. Keep this in mind and trying to um, think of embodied carbon when you pick a material. So this is end of last slide. So I want you to take away 3 points. So my first takeaway is really understand and pick the right one for your project. For every certification, there's pros and cons. Understand that and trying to pick the right one best aligned with your project goals and sustainability objective. The second one is green building rating system is not a tool. It's just a tool. It's not a goal. So what I'm trying to say here is really I'll pick SPM as example. SPM is just an exam. It's not a goal for you. It's not like finish SPM is my goal. It's after SPM, how you use your SPM exam to apply for university. It's a goal, right? So don't take green building rating system as a goal. Uh, it's just a tool. So I think a lot of clients will come to us and say, hey, I just want GPI's goal, get me there. That's all. No, because if the client treat you like this, they'll just treat this whole thing like an exam. Tick, tick, tick. Oh, you don't. Okay, this one I don't want. And then they kind of like throw that. Once they get the GPI certified, they don't care anymore. The main reason why green building rating system is just a tool is because what's mattered it's really how to operate and maintain it after it gets built. It's not just getting that rating system and say, hey, I'm good. I do my marketing stuff. A lot of clients buy my property. That's all. End of the game. So keep in mind when the client come to you, just trying to educate them on this. And then the third one, it's really to decarbonize the whole construction industry, everyone has a role to play, especially you guys, architects, because from design to material selection, you have a crucial role to lead the whole industry towards a low carbon future. I highly believe that do a good design can really change the world. That's really something that I want to leave it to you. Yeah, that's all for my presentation today. Yeah, let me know if you have any question.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Tina. Okay, for the insightful sharing. Okay, on the green rating tools. Scott. So I think this is kind of something which is like an eye opener for the students, especially you are in the practice, especially from the not only just about the nation but international. So students, most of them are actually the first semesters. Okay, so I think that you guys, I'm sure that you have like numbers of question marks or probably some of the things that you would like to know regarding to the green rating tools. What is that? So everyone heard about GBI, CASP, green RE and so forth. So do you have any questions? I mean, for all the students that you would like to ask Ms. Tinas about the green rating tools, you may try to voice up. Okay, I think we have questions. Okay, in the chat box here. Okay, probably from Akid, one of our students, representative of our students. What is the most commonly used green building technologies in Malaysia, and how do they contribute to sustainability? So that's the first question. And the second question, as a students and future architects, how can we contribute to advancing the green building technologies and sustainability goals in Malaysia? And followed by the third questions, what are the challenges faced by the developers or main contractor in adopting green building technologies or green building rating tools and so forth in Malaysia? Okay, so Ms. Tina, so we would like to hear from you regarding to the questions. Thank you.
Sure, sure. I'll answer the first question first. What is the most commonly used green building technology in Malaysia? So, I, I, there's a lot of green building technology out there, and it's improving a lot as well. But highly depends on what's the problem you are facing right now. Like what I mentioned, if you have very high, you want to reduce your energy consumption, there's a lot of way to reduce energy consumption with green building technology using like VRF, different kind of system. But it's too broad to give you this kind of answer. But it highly depends on what kind of project you're working on. Technology is definitely a good way to solve problem, but what I'm trying to bring out here, it's really design can solve the problem as well. It's not just with technology because technology comes with cost, and cost is the most I will answer your third question right now. It's the most challenging thing that the developers and main contractor are facing right now. It's mainly cost. Cost is the main issue. So building come with a cost, especially new technology. So, and also I want to point out something. It's in the industry, especially in Asia and even in ASEAN, people are tends to be late adopter. They want other people to use the technology first and then prove it it's okay, then they adopt it. So even though you find something good out there, like you see like, oh, this is a very new technology, it's gonna bring in a lot of good contribution to a building, but developers will tend to say, hey, can you prove it to me? Can you show it to me where you use it? Do a bit of case study and show it to me. I need that because people in ASEAN are late adopter in a way. They don't want to take the risk. I think that's mainly cost and risk will be the main challenges if you want to push something for a developer and main contractor in Malaysia. That's answering your third question. But your first question, solar PV panel is very common right now. A lot of good efficient aircon HVAC system, but building technology mainly come with mostly I would say it's MEP side, right? What I'm trying to say here is really understanding a good technology is great, but the client cares the most is really the cost. I'm not sure if I understand. I answer your question, but jumping to your second question is, as a student, also future architect, how can you contribute to advancing the green building technology and sustainability goal? Um, I think um, how you can contribute to advancing green building technology is telling us what kind of problem you're facing right now. This is helping a lot. Like when you work on project, trying to note down your problem you're facing in each project, and then maybe let the supplier know, hey, we have this kind of issue. Can you help to develop a solution for us? Because I know advancing green building technology requires a lot of research, and it kind of going to the product design side, right? To build a technology to solve something, it's really involving other sector. Like maybe if you want a BMS system that can do a lot of things involving different kind of sector people. That's why you architects are the first people that talk to the client, talk to the user. You know the most of the client, also the user. That's why if you can bring this problem to the supplier, let them know what you are facing in terms of the user and also the client, you will help them a lot. And then this thing will fly for sure. Or even joint venture with them. I think joint venture is a very good idea. Not like you putting yourself just working on the green building technology, but working with someone that is very good at this. So you can create something, create more value to the industry. Yep. I hope that answered your question.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Tina, for your explanation. So, Akib, hope that, Ms. Tina answered the questions. Okay, or if you have any more questions, you can ask further. I think we have next questions again. Okay, from Mariam. Okay, as mentioned before, Malaysia and China are facing materials problems. So what are some of the examples of the material that has a lots of embodied carbons in both of the countries? and what are some of the materials that used in the US or other countries to cater this issue. So maybe you could trying to give some suggestions that you have faced in your practice, okay, the problems
Sure.
of the materials in our design. All right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I will take solar panel as example. So solar panel manufacturing in Malaysia and China, it's going to be different because of the grid energy consumption, right? The electricity that we get highly depends on the source, right? So if you build, I'll give you an example. If you build a manufacturing factory in Sarawak, mainly you're getting a lot of the electricity from hydro. It will lower your embodied carbon a lot. That's why you can see gradually a lot of people are moving their factory towards a place that have a lot of renewable energy because it's going to lower your embodied carbon. While China right now, they are using a lot of coal, but right now gradually they are changing more towards nuclear. I think this is mainly because of this is also a driver, right? Embodied carbon is also a driver. So so solar panel um s- solar yes solar panel it's sorry, give me 1 second. Uh,
Okay, students, if you have any more questions, please welcome to types in the chat box. Yeah, I'm sure that you are doing with mangrove, right? So those are the things that probably whoever that's you want to do, for the GBI or maybe CASBs and any other green rating tools. Okay, you can relate back, okay, to your project. So please try to ask the questions. Okay,
yeah.
so Tina have come back. All right. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Yes, I was saying about solar panel, right? Like, yeah. So highly depends on the source of energy. So if it coming from a more greener source, definitely it will reduce a lot of carbon. And also the traveling, as you can see, transport to the site is really taking into account. If you're taking from a very like, if you can get it from Sarawak, why don't you get it from Sarawak? Because when you import the material from China, maybe it's coming from like it highly depends if we take cargo by plane, it would have higher embodied carbon. So it's highly depends on the transportation method and also the energy source. So that's why we should ask supplier more questions rather than just cost. That's what I'm trying to suggest here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I hope Mariam, is Miss Dina answering your questions?
Yeah.
All right, okay. We have another questions, Tina. Okay, good. They are quite curious about this. That's why yeah, thank you to be there with us. Yeah, from Sabina has another questions. From the carbon cycles and pie chart that show about the embodied carbons, is it really not possible to reduce any embodied and carbons from the design building process? So do you have any suggestions or maybe ideas that you think that some way, somehow we can trying to reduce, to take up
Mhm.
in order to to make the whole process greenest. Yeah, in
Yes.
is there
Mm.
any alternative technologies or probably some of the more creative methods, okay, that you have faced or you have go through, okay, during your practice in Hong Kong, Canada, and Singapore and so forth. Yeah.
Sure, sure. I think I might get my message wrong to Sabrina just now. What I'm trying to say is during the design stage, we have the highest influence on embodied carbon. So what cannot be done is really after we build the building. So it will gonna lock in for the entire life, the building life cycle. But during the design process, we definitely can change. That's why I highly recommend architect to look into embodied carbon. It's because the most influence that we can give to embodied carbon, lower the embodied carbon, is really architect and also structure engineer. Structure engineer coming from the loading side, they have to make sure the building can sustain and within the load, right? So they have to pick the right material that can, like concrete, like steels, rebar, those kind of thing they can pick alternative or they can design it well to reduce the use of column. I think there's a lot of conversation between architect and structural engineer about the column, right? Why you put so many column on my building, remove it. Those kind of conversation, it's really helping. It's not like pushing them, it's like reducing embodied carbon as well, right? I mean, it's gonna make their life harder, I know, but it's it's putting more thought process into your design process. It's gonna help the world because if you don't think, you just put a lot of columns in, you're using a lot of concrete and steel, right? Why? If it doesn't make sense, don't put it. And then from the architecture side, it's really like what I mentioned, picking the right materials. So one of my project experience in Sabah, they are building a resort. The client looks into embodied carbon. That's why they change a small building, a very small kind of one-story building into a bamboo structure. Oh, sorry, I correct myself, not bamboo structure, bamboo facade. So rather using aluminium panel or other stuff, they try to go with the natural way. Or timber is a very low embodied carbon material as well. Just explore all the material out there if you can, and trying to try to put that in your design. So I'm facing right now is really a client, they love those kind of wood pattern in their building, but because wood in Malaysia it's not long lasting, so they're asking us to put aluminum panel with wood pattern. So if you can see from the graph I showed just now, aluminum has the highest embodied carbon. So if I were the if I didn't know about the embodied carbon of aluminum, I would definitely talk to the client and say, sure, no worries, we just go with the aluminum. I save a lot of time. It will last there for so long. And it's like, wait, definitely good choice. But once I know about embodied carbon, I would say, hey, why don't you think more about the timber? Timber material is good. Although I know this, you're gonna face a bit of issue in the future, but it's a natural materials. It's gonna lower the embodied carbon. Although it's gonna be a struggle, I know it's very challenging right now. That's why we seldom hear about embodied carbon here. I even told the client you need a longer time to educate them on this. But just, I think in the industry is as a whole, if we do that effort gradually, the client will get there as well. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
All right. Okay. Thank you. We have another questions. Okay, from Akit. Okay, because when you mentioned about the Sabah project, I'm quite excited because they are doing the ecological architecture, which is the site is actually located at the mangrove area. So they would
Oh,
like to, yeah, yeah. So they're going to like designing, some of them going to be designing a resort or probably like research centers or any community center that is like using a natural materials and so forth in the mangrove area in Johor. So
nice.
I think we have one questions from the
Mm,
student. For achieving green building is highly depending on the location of site itself.
mm,
What is your opinion for achieving the green rating in challenging sites such as the mountains, wetlands, mangrove muddy areas, and the shore
mm.
area? Yeah.
Um, I I can comment from Malaysia perspective. From GBI wise, you're just losing a few points. So it's easy to sorry to say that, but yeah, generally speaking, from a sustainability perspective, we should definitely do a site assessment before we build anything or decide on anything. But this is not the right approach. Or even every time when the client come to us, they already bought the land. They say, "Hey, I want to build something on this land." So there's nothing we can do for the site already. That's what I'm trying to say. But what we can do is reducing a lot of environmental impact from other perspective, right? Like we build more landscape area, we kind of leave it like that. We don't want to use all the boundaries. I kind of like use all the site, but it's a very difficult conversation with the client because they own the land, right? So I'm just giving a bit of insight, but from the achieving GBI wise, you're just losing a few points. It's okay, yeah.
Okay, all right. I think that's what exactly. I think I mentioned to students because most of the time students are worried. Like let's say we give them like 4 acres, they want to develop the whole 4 acre. I say no, not really. You have to develop everything on the 4 acres. You have to really think about how to preserve. Like for example, the trees and what the trees is and how to integrate things, the landscaping into aspects of the place makings later.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. So this
definitely,
I
yeah.
think line, okay, what our thoughts, in the practice and like Tina's and me and all the lectures is actually aligned. So student do not worries about like we give you 4 acres, you have to use up all the 4 acres. The things of the greens. It's like when you look into like the GBI or KSB or any other green rating tools, they will partly part of the criteria, they will ask you about how are you going to utilizing the greens and so forth, and how
Mm,
many percent of the green area that you're going to preserve. Yeah. So this is much more important rather than you build everything on the site itself. Yeah. So
yes.
start from now, before you go into the practice later. Okay. So the last question
Oh,
probably is from me because
yes.
you
Lovely.
Tina, you're from practice, right? So
Mm,
do you have any like tools, rules of thumbs, or anything that student can use, like free one, okay, or
mm,
refer, okay, because for these semesters they are not just about designing, like for example the daylight that we went through together, right? So they have
mm,
to use some of the software, okay, to do the evidence-based design. Means that if they
okay.
prove that the daylight is good, so they have to use the software. Like in schools, we are using a free software like VLux to prove,
Yes.
okay, this design is good in order for us to get these kinds of the environment and so forth. So how about like, do you have any suggestions, recommendations of the software, like for embodied energy or any other software that you have come across that which is like can use for trial version or maybe
Mm,
free that you think is reliable and can be used? Yeah.
mm. I think the free I will suggest a few free one. I think the BCA, the Green Mark right now, they have a embodied carbon calculator, which is great for us to use as well because I think it's just an Excel, and then you can just pick the location that you get from the material. Say you get it from Malaysia, and then you can pick it. They will just automatically calculate the embodied carbon in terms of transportation. They have all the things in that, and then you can use that as a default value. I think that is a very good tool. I'll try to search that out, and I'll share with you, Nelson, and you feel free to share to the student as well. In terms of, I only use the one that with fee, so paid one. OpenLCA, it's pretty good as well. OpenLCA, they offer a lot of training. I think they offer trials, a trial version, and also for student use it cheaper. They are a very that it looks like a website. It's way more easy than Excel, like the one that BCA offer. But feel free to look into both. But I think that OpenLCA1 look into a global. They have global database, while the Singapore one only have a few in Asia market. I think, which is already enough of student. I think to make it might make the thing more complicated. But yeah, if you want to look into detail, OpenLCA is something that I really recommend. Yeah, basically those two. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a very comprehensive sharing. Okay, for today, the 1 hours sharing for from Tina's to all the students. Yeah, even me myself learning a lot from you. Yeah, so thank you very much, Tina, for your
Thank you.
sharing to our students. And I'm sure that students are much more understands compared to before because I see that they're quite actively asking the questions in the
That's
chat
good.
box.
Yeah.
So
Feel free to let me know if you have any question or even now so you can share my email to them. Like if you wanna know more about sensory consultant or like if you wanna work as a sensory consultant, let me know. I'm more than happy to share my experience with you.
yeah, sure. So I will later on I will share your emails, yeah, to the
Mm,
students. Okay. Hopefully today's students going to learn a lot and have been more confident to proceed with their next designs. Yeah, in the case. They just had their
mm.
first crit, which is the design proposal. So for next they're
Oh,
going to start off with their own designs on the mangrove. Yeah.
I see, I see, nice.
So next week we are going to the mangrove to have an
Oh,
immersive trip. Yeah, they're
okay.
going to go into the mangrove and experience how the mangrove is, so that they're having a clearer idea how the mangrove look like and what is the
Wow.
ecosystems and so forth in the Johor area.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully next time we should catch up again, and hopefully
Yep,
we could have you again. Okay, in next semester or maybe in next events. Yeah,
for
it's our
sure. Yeah.
pleasure and honor to have you. Okay.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, so
Have a good
I think
day.
for today, so yeah, before we end, shall we have a group photos? Student,
Oh,
can you trying to open up your camera? Sorry, Tina, take up a lot of your time for
no, no,
today.
no, no, no worries, no worries.
Yeah, since this is our first, I mean, the lecture input, yeah, invite you as a speakers.
Thank you so much for
Student,
inviting me.
mm, okay, students, how about the rest? Okay. All right, guys, ready?
Mhm.
Sorry, it takes a while. Maybe there's
Mhm.
some of them are still at home. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. I think we snap first. All right. Okay. Look at the screen. Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right. Okay. So I think let me see. Is there any? All right. Any more? Okay. Another one. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. So yeah, once again, thank you very much, Tina, for your sharing. Okay. Hope to catch up with you again next time. All right. Thank you very much, students
Thank
as well.
you.
All right. Okay. See
Bye.
you again. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you, Miss Tina.
Okay, students, so please don't forget on the attendance. So I will share the link, okay, with you later on the recordings. Hopefully you have clearer ideas, like especially those who are doing about the green rating tools. And now you have something new like embodied energy. So try on the BCA one. I think that one is free and it's valid for you to use as a tools for your the studio as well. Okay, please explore it. Okay, I think that's all for the class for today. Okay, trying to look into that and hopefully for next week, yeah, you're coming back with a better enhanced proposal. Okay, see you guys. Okay, bye bye.